So hello everyone. So I'm Lizelle Atole. So let's start our lecture for this afternoon. So I will be today's moderator and we are live in Facebook. So this podcast is brought to you by the Center of Partido Studies, Partido Institute of Economics, Museo de Isarog, College of Arts and Sciences, School of Graduate Studies, PSU Extension Office, Office of the University President, Office of the Board Secretary, and the PASFECUP student volunteers. So this week, we have been talking about various life ways and cultures of indigenous people from Bicol and Mindanao. So just a recap, last Tuesday, Dr. Paredes presented to us the two notable traditions involving epidemics in North Central Mindanao during the colonial era and discusses their enduring significance to modern-day Lumad communities. And yesterday, Ma'am Sen Pinino gave us a snapshot of Agta in communities in Partido, forgoing Usipon and Lihi. So for today's lecture, we will be talking about various beliefs in Tawong Lipod as part of the culture of the Agtang Tabangnon in Partido area. So our guest speaker is an assistant professor and the former research coordinator of the College of Education, Partido State University, Goa, Camarines Sur. So being a double major, she teaches both English and technology subjects in teacher education programs in the said university. She has an MA in education degree, major in English at the same university and is pursuing her PhD studies major in languages and literacy development at Ateneo de Naga University, Naga City. She had received awards in her research and extensions undertakings in institutional, regional, and national levels. So her study on Taong Lipod is a component of NCCA-funded project titled Usipon, Suanoy kang mga taong lipod, asin lihi kang agta sa partido, with Assistant Professor Josenia M. Pilino as the project leader. Her interest in culture studies is constitutive of her role as a language academician since language and culture are interrelated. So now, let's welcome Assistant Professor Sheila Amoroso. Ma'am?
Okay, thank you very much, Mom Lizelle, for that quick introduction. So let me just prepare my PowerPoint presentation. So allow me to greet once again all the participants. Marhay na hapon po sa Satuya Davos. A pleasant afternoon to the online panel members and participants, the staff of Balungibog. Good afternoon. So before I proceed to my lecture, I wish to thank Balungibog Talks through the Office of the PARSU President Dr. Raul Bradesina, the Office of the Board Secretary Ma'am Layan Odonio, and the rest of the Balungibog Talk staff through its coordinator Mr. Earl Jan Hernandez and Ms. Lizelle Atole as moderator for this rare opportunity to share my knowledge about the Tawong Lipod as part of the local esoteric belief of the Agtang Tabangnon in Partido. So I was quickly introduced already by Ma'am Alizel. So I am currently connected with Partido State University under the Department of College of Education. And I am the co-author of the project Sipong Suanoy kan mga taong lipod, asindihi kan agta sa partido. And so I will serve as your speaker for this afternoon. So this is a funded research that our funding agency was the National Commission on um, the Culture and the Arts, or the NCCA, and our cooperating agency was the National Commission on Indigenous People, or the NCIP. So we have the implementing agency, the Partido State University, and also in cooperation with the Commission on Higher Education. So what I will be sharing in this lecture are interesting facts about Tawong Lipod, which we gathered during our field works in Partido. So one quick question that you may ask is, what made you study on this Tawong Lipod? Aside from the fact that it is interesting, so um, well, for me, this type of study made shivers on my spine. So it's like bringing back memories in my childhood. As a beginning reader at the age of 5 years old, I got hooked in reading comics of various kinds, and one of which is the Kilabot comics that releases issues of horror stories in a weekly basis. As a child, I need to save from my baon in order to avail of the rentals in the amount of peso for every one piece of comics. So some worn out copies are available in 50 centavos, or 3 copies for 1 peso. Both my reading and imagination are honed by the pictures and lively captions and dialogues. During that time, there was no internet yet, and even a television set was uncommon in our setting. As I grow up, I've had several personal experiences with unseen spirits. Some appreciated, but some dismissed it by saying, maybe you forget to say your prayers before going to sleep. But I will not highlight my personal experiences on Tawong Lipod, but of course, those of Agtang Tabangnons. I will formally begin my presentation by positioning the context so that you will understand the stories later. I will start from the macro, going down to micro level, just to provide the bird's eye view of the context at hand. It has been a general knowledge for all of us that the Philippines is a very rich culture as a byproduct of its historical genealogy. This cultural richness cannot be only accorded to the colonizers, since even the pre-colonized era, our Philippine ancestors have their own unique culture and traditions evident in their everyday life, which can be observed through their belief systems, rituals, traditions, trade, commerce, education, and mode of communication. So these early ancestors are known for their deep religiosity and are manifested in their deep respect in their environment and even the spirits of the dead. But during that time, there was no official religion, just like they have today. To supply their spiritual existence, they worship spirits found in animals, trees, mountains, bodies of water, etc. So they call this as animistic belief. So fast forward to the 21st century, where the cultural landscape has been continuously evolving. In a UNESCO report in 2000, it accounted for the linguistic demise of indigenous groups' dialects in the Philippines. So it has been said in sociocultural theory that language and culture are interconnected. If few indigenous members are using Inagta dialect at present, then the premise that even their culture in general is also facing the threat of extinction. Along this line, numerous efforts have been made by academicians and social scientists to save the Philippine indigenous culture. One of these movements focused on extensive documentations of their oral traditions, which is considered to be as an intangible, rich culture. Numerous works nationwide have been made along this line. One example is the work of Aduanan in 1974, which documented the oral stories of burial practices in Kasiguran Dumagat tribes. Father Demetrio, a Jesuit priest, had also contributed much in documenting the folk beliefs and rituals of indigenous groups in Samar. Bicolano historian Dr. Hirona made extensive studies on the historical origins and genealogy of Agta in Bicol and many others. Religion has been centered in the life of the indigenous people from pre-colonization until post-colonization era. All of these efforts have one in common goal: absent, modern-day influences such as globalization and modernization continue to mold the contemporary Agta. Although they are outnumbered by mainstream Filipinos, they still continue to represent an old age rich culture as represented by their supernatural beliefs. Likaupo categorized culture into two main areas, the esoteric and the exoteric. Exoteric culture is comprised of languages, music, dances, architecture, literature, and visual arts, while esoteric culture represents their belief in supernaturalisms. So in Bicol, despite numerous efforts to uncover and document these esoteric cultures, few of these has been considered to be part of the mainstream Filipino culture. Local libraries and even museums have limited information on the esoteric beliefs, maybe because mostly considered it as only a myth or folklore, and that they are just products of imagination. Few have considered its significance in the socio-cultural field, and many have dismissed altogether to be included in the mainstream education since it does not conform to scientific thinking. In the 21st century, many mainstream Filipinos would ignore listening to these old accounts due to its lack of relevance in the modern world. However, in this lecture, I will argue that these folk tales are still relevant in the contemporary world. In the words of Grimm in 1993, it is important to answer the needs of the self in the context of understanding his own identity, for it helps in psychologically positioning the rationality of the self in terms of origin, structure, and function of the cosmos. By understanding the self, the contemporary Agtang Tabangnon will not only trace his own origin, but also structure his physical and cosmic presence, and thus perform his functions as a member of that structure. Similarly, as early as 1963, Iliad have already emphasized the importance of coming into terms with its mythic tradition in order for the nation to fully understand its existence, since myths are still the products of the psyche as it has developed from the depths of the unconscious. In a wider scope, Jung emphasized the value of studying the myths not only of our own people, but also for the rest of the world. Through this, people can comparatively analyze and make meanings on the socio-semiotic connections present in the culture under study. This lecture tries to make meanings on the relations and influence of esoteric belief on Agtang Tabangnon's physical existence and draw implications on how contemporary society. So who is the Agtang Tabangnon? Sorry. The term agta has been derived from the Latin word aetatis, meaning of age. Locally, aita is also similarly known as agta, which is being generally used to refer to the indigenous group in Bicol that when applied to knowledge, it is equivalent to the indigenous group in Bicol, I mean sorry, That when applied to knowledge, it is equivalent to informal knowledge. So that was the definition of Antwiler in 1998. It is a tribe which originally dominated the entire region. Later, however, they have been sporadically located in the provinces of Albay, Sorsogon, Camarines Sur, Masbate, and Catanduanes. They are characterized as short, stocky, with thick lips, flat nose, black and curly hair, and black complexion. Their ancestral roots can be traced way back 50,000 years ago, which is known as the Pleistocene era. Agtang Tabangnon is a result of intermarriage between a lowlander and an Agta. They are also called as nomadic since they are dependent and can traverse the entire region. The parent Agta influences their appearance in physical features such as wavy hair, fair complexion, and taller structure. The Agtang Cimarron is the offspring of the nomadic Agta in Bicol who intermarried foreigners. They are the improvised version of the parent Agta in terms of facial and physical features of foreign lineage, mostly Spanish or other foreign bloodline. The Agtang Taboy is a predominant subtribe found in the coastal areas in Albay. They are dependent on fishing, tenant farming, hunting, and mining. They're characterized with fair complexion, brownish straight hair, tall and lean with aquiline nose. The present Agta dwellers are said to be coming from different ethnic groups who are believed to be the primary inhabitants in Partido since time immemorial. In the prehispanic times, the indigenous culture had been characterized by ethnic beliefs and practices manifested in their arts, music, language, spirituality, and their notions of reality. These aspects of culture that have persisted until the present times are seen as evidence for the long-standing resistance to the colonizers' influences. So this is in contrast to the common lowlander Filipinos who were believed to be primarily acculturated by the primitive migrant people such as the Malays, Chinese, and Indonesians who were regarded as the first cradles of the Philippine civilization. And later with other colonizers, namely the Spaniards, Japanese, and Americans. Thus in Bicol, the Agta who were regarded as ancient ancestors who started the cradles of the Partido civilization continued to resist by living in uplands. Over the years, colonization, which brought forth external influences and other phenomena such as migration and interracial marriages, have resulted to the Agta's hybrid nature. Adding to this are the present day phenomena such as the need for mainstream inclusion of various Philippine ethnic groups. This need, apart from the challenges brought about by modernization, globalization, and industrialization, have been posing a threat to the indigenous culture's possible demise. After many years of post-colonial era, the Agtang Tabangnon culture can be seen as a byproduct of myriad of other cultures then and now. Some people oppose the use of the word hybridity hybridity or hybrid because it describes or it connotes a negative connotation since agta are not animals. Despite the seemingly stiff definition of the Agta culture to be distinctive of their own apart from the main culture, many sociologists believe otherwise. The Agtang Tabangnons worldview is said to be evolving in the contemporary times. Their culture has been influenced by colonization in the past and modern phenomena at present which continue to influence them in unimaginable ways. Despite living in upland areas, modern technology continues to pervade their daily life. One is the use of habal-habal, or locally known as door-to-door, to supplement their transportation needs in upland areas. If before they commonly used carabao pulling a cart loaded with agricultural products such as abaca or other vegetables, nowadays it is common for them to own a motorcycle used as a mode of transportation. Another is the use of smartphones, which automated their needs to communicate to their loved ones. Central in the Agta social construct is their inbound and outbound conceptions. By the way, I am discussing this so that we will have a comprehensive view of the personality of the Agta. So I'll be describing the different attributes of the Agta so that we will know the underlying conditions in understanding their culture. So let me continue. In terms of social attributes, Agta's social construct is uh, composed of the inbound and outbound conceptions. They have strong inbound relations among their fellow Agta and a weak outbound relations with mainstream people. This can be manifested through various socialization activities then and now. In the olden days, the Agta are said to be less accommodating individuals. They are highly territorial beings, and anyone who did not respect their territories will be harmed or die. However, at present, although some are still greatly attached to their inbound orientations, they are now slowly accommodating outbound socialization activities such as drinking tuba or gin and bulang. For an Agtang Isarog who is not choose to mingle with people not within their sphere, such as the lowlanders, they often feel shy, intimidated, and awkward. They have a tendency to avoid lowlanders' intrusion in their safe space, such as their upland homes. In the conduct of this study, the researchers commonly found that bringing a gin worked a great advantage in order to make them cooperate and talk about their experiences. Drinking coconut wine or gin is their way of socialization in their tribes. So this is often done with a small glass and a chaser for lowlanders. However, among Agtang Isarog or Agtang Tabangnon, most of them prefer drinking it without chaser. While drinking, they commonly chat and have fun. Even women, young and old, are also hard drinkers. Some elders, men and women, were fond of chewing betel nut, and they can even drink up to the point of sleeping on their seats. Another manifestation of their inbound relations is the practice of hunglunan, or otherwise known as tarabangan or bayanihan, in planting agricultural products such as rice, corn, abaca, etc. When an agta is planting rice or corn, he makes use of the basisi, an agricultural implement made of bamboo with sharp edge in one end and has two flapping edges on the other. This is used in making a hole on the ground for planting. As he moves his basisi, it creates a distinctive sound that can be heard by nearby agta in the village. This gives them the idea that someone is preparing the land for planting, and they will gather in the farm where the sound is coming from and start helping the agta in planting. In return, the agta doing the basisi prepares some handa in the form of food such as kakanin or native delicacies, meat of wild pigs or birds, etc. The next time that other agta in their village also is about to plant his agricultural uh, plants, the other agta, including those who have been helped before, will return the favor and do the same to his fellow agta. This practice is still being observed by Agtang Tabangnon in Isarog and has been the counterpart of the Tagalog concept of bayanihan in Partido. This concept is also almost similar to the fishing culture of Agta in Sangay, known as Sinsuro, where a fish net with a very long rope is thrown in the deep part of the sea and people from the coastline help each other in pulling the rope to catch fish. When the fish net arrives at the coast, the owner of the net will share his catch to the people who helped in pulling the rope. The fishes caught will be equally divided into two, where the other half is then divided according to the number of people who pulled the ropes. Some of the fishermen believe that when a pregnant woman is among the parabutong, she will get double the allotted share. This, according to them, is valuing the life of the baby inside the mother's womb. In terms of their spiritual attributes, most of the contemporary Agta believe in the existence of God as the supreme being. They are generally baptized Catholic Christians and follow the Roman Catholic teachings and traditions. They have deep spirituality, understanding their life as a gift from God, and that they have to be a good Christian by following the teachings and commandments. However, there are also those who are non-practicing Roman Catholics. They are characterized by being baptized as Catholics, yet they do not practice religiously the doctrines of the church. These people are those found in deep forests in Goa, Tigawan, and Sangay. They also have high regard to the spirits of their dead loved ones. One of the many traditions that they still practice is makihaya, or paying last respects to the dead and showing sympathy to the families left by the dead. It is believed that this practice has originated from the natives of Tiwi Albay. The family members of the departed prepare handa, a food served during special occasions, in the form of kakanin, native delicacies such as ibos, balisungsong, sapin-sapin, and some fruits and meats of wild pig or baul. They offer this to the people, paying respects for their departed loved ones. This spirituality of the Agta is also manifested in their way of life, such as in disciplining their children. In an account of one of the Agta, his father usually utters the statement, "Pag-andam pangataman, taanti ka ko sa imo, madalagan." In English, be prepared and be careful, because my spear will hit you in no time. This is the Agta's way of warning his children and making them stop their naughtiness. In a way, throwing the spear to a child is an inhumane act. However, during the early days, corporal punishment serves as an effective way of child discipline of a parent. The main source of livelihood among Agtang Isarog households is generally centered on agriculture. They are engaged in farming, vegetable production, animal livestock raising, fishing, for those living in coastal areas, handicrafts making, abaca fiber production, paghagot, and a lot more. Among the major agricultural crops or products of the Agta are rice or karoy, corn, abaca, sugarcane, vegetables, and others. They grow their own carabao to help them in toiling their lands. Some of them knows how to do trading in nearby markets, such as their fruit or vegetable produces such as sweet potato, bungkukan, ube, natong, langa, amiris, namo, gatong, eggplant or talong, mango, cabbage, coconut, jackfruit, banana, and many others. They use various agricultural implements such as spear or pika, lambing, pinasbad, sundang, and many others. These agricultural tools help them in their livelihood activities. In Sangay, where its location is characterized by both coastal and mountainous areas, the Agtang Tabangnon makes use of farming and fishing as means of livelihood. In their coastal areas, most of the Agta are paralawod or fishermen. They use indigenous implements in fishing such as ansag and sulat. Some Agta living in upland areas of Sangay, Goa, and Tigaon are hunters and fishers. They use their own tools and implements, such as spears, For bats, they do it through alapdos and daso, which is used to attract animals in the forest. In Tigaon, the Agta identified various types of bats or paliki, namely kulabidong, dulom, bulaw, lutukan, and angaspa. Some also make use of pagpulot. It is a process of in catching wild bats and birds. To do this, they make use of pulot as adhesive made by mixing litak and dangkiri. Once suspended on air, any bird or bats that step on it will be attached due to its sticky quality. In hunting for wild pigs, they make use of an improvised bait called harikos, which is done by putting a fence or kudal and rope or lubid in a strategic place in the forest where it is possible to be visited by wild pigs. When the wild pig steps on the rope, the lubid will immediately tighten and catch the wild pig suspended on air. The kudal or fence is used to warn the other hunters that there is a harikos in that area. In catching wild chicken or talon, alitag is also used. It is the same concept with harikos, but this time it has a net tied to a rope and immediately tightens and suspended its catch into the air. Another way to catch wild pigs is through atbong, where sujang are placed. The hole was covered with dried leaves on top to conceal it from the wild animals in the forest. Once a wild pig steps on it, it will fall underneath and the sharp sujang will thrust into its body. Okay. So in terms of its economic attributes, we can say that the Agtang Tabangnons the agricultural products for subsistence. However, despite the abundance of natural resources where they get their means of livelihood, most of them still belong below the poverty line. This, according to Licauco in 2000, is brought by many factors, one of which is greatly affected by the climatic condition in the Philippines. Due to its geographical location, located at the far end eastern part of Bicol region and facing the Pacific Ocean, the Partido area has been regularly visited by strong typhoons, earthquakes, and other natural disasters. Another factor which greatly influences their economic condition is their lack of formal education. Most of the Agtang Isarog or Agtang Tabangnon has low educational attainments. Most of the elders, 60 years and above, only reached elementary level and did not even finish secondary school because of few formal school attendees in their own villages. Some of the reasons which they identified were they do not know the importance of education in their lives. Others were not even given enough opportunities due to poverty, and the distance from home to school is very far, requiring 3 hours or more walking barefoot. Given these situations, the government felt the need to help them in alleviating their economic condition through 4 Ps program, the Pantawid Pamilyang Filipino program, and because of this, the 4 Ps grantees are given monthly subsistence allowance and helps native families in financing their children's schooling. In understanding the Agtang Tabangnon, I think this was already discussed by Ma'am Sen yesterday. We also documented the types of houses where, or the abodes where the Agtang Tabangnon lived. So we identified at least three types. We have the dugmon. It is a house with a floor covered with abaca leaves called as layong. And another one is the kurob, having a roof that touches the ground. Okay, so I think this is the kurob, the last picture. And then moderno, having a cemented flooring and having a cemented wall and tiled flooring and a galvanized roofing. Okay, so I think the fourth one is a modern type of house. In the past, because of this overabundance of trees, most of the Agta dwellings are made of wood floorings. They typically live in houses which are mostly made of light materials. Some households have floorings which are usually plain earth because of the belief that they need the ground for a longer life and that it is where they will return when they die. There are also some Agta who use dugmon, although some wanted to improve their home flooring, their economic conditions prevent them from doing such. So those who have no means to improve their houses make use of kurub design. This believed to be stronger and can withstand strong typhoons and other calamities. Some have modern types of houses, having a cemented wall, tiled flooring, and galvanized roofing. However, despite these modern materials, they still use firewood in cooking their meals. They fetch their drinking water from a spring half a kilometer away from their house. They do not have supply of electricity, although there is a solar-powered light post in front of their house. This serves as their light in their sitio during nighttime. They use gas or the soap as a source of light inside their houses. This makes studying during nighttime a real struggle for the pupils and students living in their community. Okay, so at last, we're done defining who is the Tawong Lipod using different attributes. So um, we now proceed to the main objective of the lecture, which is introducing who is the Tawong Lipod. So the Tawong Lipod is constitutive of powerful mystical beings that are believed to reside within the area of Mount Isarog, which serves as the entry point to their world. The Tawong Lipod comes in various forms and figures. They could be of the same physical features as to an ordinary human being, only that the Tawong Lipod lacks the lugi-lugi, or otherwise known as filtrum, and this is found in between the nose and the upper lip, okay, of a person. The origin of the Tawong Lipod's existence was narrated by the Agtang Tabangnons way back when got angry to some of his angels who committed actions against his commandments. As a consequence, he casted them out of heaven, removed their right to live with God, and sent them down to earth to live with human beings, and were later called as fallen angels. They started to live in rivers, lakes, falls, rocks, trees, mountains, caves, etc. Some believe that as a punishment to their mischiefs, they were made as caretakers of God's creatures, including man. Some also associated this event to the story of Adam and Eve when they committed original sin against God by eating the forbidden fruit. Because of this, man has been inflicted by sin, resulting to his actions against the will of God. Although the most Agta- Although most of Agtang Tabangnons believe that the Taong Lipod are the fallen angels, they also need to be respected just like other beings because they can also befriend humans and help their life achieve good luck and prosperity. There are those who believe that Encanto and Taong Lipod are the same. However, the distinction lies on the generic name of the Tawong Lipod. Okay, so let me introduce to you the different types of Tawong Lipod. They are the Lictin, the Duende, the Lictin or Duende, the Patianak or Tiyanak in Philippine mythology, the Encanto. This one is the Suhing Encanto, and the female version is the Incantada, the Rumurugpan or the Capre, the Magindara or Sirena, the Luok, Tambaluslos, and the Laki or Tikbalang. Okay, Lictin or Duende. It has been described by locals as small, either a male or a female, old or young creature. It has a short physique, chinky eyes, and with wide elongated ears. They stand like a doll in height, approximately as tall as a cat or dog, black-haired, sharp-edged chin, thick eyebrows, small satted nose, and small, thin lips. So just like the Encanto, they also do not have philtrum. They are playful beings and can cause good fortune to humans. Once disturbed, they can also be fierce and can cause illnesses and other misfortunes. An Agta narrated that she had seen a duende inside her house eating some of their leftover rice in their kuron or rice cooker. But there are times that they inflict diseases called karaw. The only way to cure this is through an albularyo who talks to them and performs pag-aalay or offering. Next is the Patianak or Tiyanak. Contrary to popular beliefs, Patianak does not look like an unborn baby. Rather, it resembles a gamgam, just like this one on the left side, or bird with a black complexion. Small and fierce-looking eyes, and thin and fine fur all around its front body, and a bird-like feather covering its back. It can cause a pregnant woman to lose her unborn child through miscarriage, called nakuahan. Its voice is only heard during nighttime to signal its presence around a pregnant woman. They can live anywhere but mostly live in the mountains. It has the power to mimic animals or called as mali-mali, such as Kuri black cat. It can also be a huge black bird or in a form of a frog. Richilda Marshall recounted her experience when her mother was pregnant to her sister named Marisa. Her mother heard a loud cry, and in a little while, her baby was born. While it is happening, a big black cat appeared and started to roam around her mother. The delivery was successful. However, they noticed that Marisa's cry sounds like the oha of the patiana. Next is the Encanto or the female version, Encantada. Encanto has two types. One is a handsome looking man with clean cut hair and a physique of a respectable demeanor. And another type is a fierce looking creature, the one on the left. It is called the Encantong Suhi. The first time the first type have a fair-skinned complexion with clothing that of a normal person. He has no philtrum or lugi-lugi in between its nose and mouth, and the second type is believed to be a dark, fearful creature known for having a fierce attitude. He is the cause of common deaths among Agtang Tabangnon. The female version of Encanto is called Encantada. She is a woman of captivating beauty, with a crown, of fair complexion, and with long and wavy hair. She is usually seen in the forests, near the trees, or various kinds, called balete or anuling, which are believed to be dwellings of Tawong Lipod. She can cause good fortune to people who are nice to her. However, she can also cause misfortune to people who are unkind to her. She is believed to be powerful and powerful to people who are unkind to her. There is a saying that beliefs about encantos and their influences appear to support social equilibrium in the community by dramatizing and reinforcing the idea that it is dangerous to covet alluring but basically unattainable wealth and power outside the barrios. In this way, the value of accepting the limitations of barrio life and one's part in it is reinforced by society. Barrio life and one's part in it is associated with the Daluhan, a symbol of barrio service and self-sufficiency who restores the victim to health and reality. More than just representing unattainable wealth and power outside the barrio, the Encanto is a projection of asymmetrical social relationships. In the context of a long and harsh colonial occupation in the Philippines, the description of the Encanto as a Caucasian is not accidental. Note that in Central America, with a history of Spanish colonization, there is also a widespread belief in a sentient being. That is, according to Adams and Rubel, characterized by its dwarf-like stature, light-colored skin, sometimes bearded and blonde, and generally with Spanish-American, Mexicanoid, or Ladino or mestizo appearance. The Encanto is understandably depicted as dangerous and a potential cause of suffering and illness. The Rumurugpan or Capre has black skin tone, red fiery eyes, body and face covered with black fur, and stands like an ordinary person. However, they are way much more than a usual human because they live in several houses with just one step. Its physique has a semblance of a gorilla, with a big mouth and bloodshot eyes due to tobacco smoking. It is also known for its bad smell, and because of this, many buyungaw or big flies are attracted to it. The rumurugpan is said to be the sidekick creature of the Tawong Lipod. It is kept by the Encantos inside a cage because of its ability to cause harm or even eat the bodies of humans. Locals believe that its running speed can beat the fastest carabao. Its genital is as big as the bud of a banana flower. It has no capacity to change its appearance, unlike the patianak, which can appear as a cat or a bird. They commonly live in Iraya or in upland areas. Panganiban in 1972 says that capre is derived from the word cafre, which the Spaniards used to refer to Muslim infidels. Although the Spaniards themselves borrowed the term from the Arabs, who used the term kafir to refer to the Christian infidels. The Magindara is believed to be a half woman and a half fish living in bodies of water. She has a black, long, and wavy hair. She only appears to people of her choice to make friends with. She is believed to be a goddess of water and lives in uncharted bodies of water. Her magic charm is called ansag, which helps fishermen to catch more fish. She has a sweet singing voice. However, once heard by an ordinary person, it is believed that he or she will become insane. In Goa and Tigavon, only few know about the Magindara, probably because of their geographical landscape. However, it is still being believed by those people living in coastal areas such as Nato and Atulayan in Sangay. A local fisherman narrated that Magindara's hair was once caught up through the fishnet by a paralabod or mangingisda. The fisherman took care of it and kept it. It brought him good luck because every time he went to the sea to fish, he always comes home with good catch. Luwak has a quirky smell because of its attitude of farting. Some locals also believe that this foul-smelling odor is caused by his lucy or the semen or sexual excretion. It is playful to humans, and just like tambaluslos, it can also come from him. It can copy the physique of a man and hide the real man from reality. And hide the real man from reality. It can be very playful, and because of this, anyone whom the luok play will smell something bad around him, which signals the presence of the luok. However, only those persons whom the luok play will smell something bad around him, which signals the presence of the luok. However, only those persons whom the luok would like to play or interact with will be able to smell it. Some Agta said that the luok's laughter can be heard by the person being played with. However, they cannot see its physical body. Once a person is eating a parina, it is an herb that smells like kamangyan. Serebandina Hernandez narrated a friend's experience when a luok replaced her daughter with another baby. The Tambaluslos is another kind of Tawong Lipod with a huge tummy, black-skinned, short arms and legs, and with a very big mouth. It has a long, kinky hair and thick lips. Its common habit is laughing all day and night. And Agta recounted that it can laugh continuously for a week. When it laughs, its lips flip outwards that it almost cover its eyes. It has a resemblance of a frog. However, it has big, black, and friendly eyes. Just like the Encanto, it has no lugi-lugi above its mouth. It is also believed that the Tambaluslos is an old man who has the power to cause lagalag or losing someone's sense of direction. Once a person was played by Tambaluslos, that person cannot find his way home, and the only way to reverse this is by removing his shirt and wearing it flipped. The rumurugpan is said to be playful to humans during the afternoon. Some people say that once a tambaluslos closes its mouth, the person being played at should say, "Ay, mas dakula pa palan sa nguso ko." In English, someone has a bigger mouth than mine, which means that person is aware that he is being played at by a rumurugpan, which makes the rumurugpan tease and leads to the person finding his way back again. Some people also believe that once a person loses his way and just turn round and round but ending in the same spot, the tambaluslos can now find his way home. Once this happens, the person being played at can now find his way home. Tambaluslos is just a work of imagination of the elders long ago, because although lots of stories have been told about the tambaluslos, there has never been a tambaluslos before and up until now. However, there are some telling their encounters with tambaluslos smiling on top of a big rock near a river at around 6 or 7 in the evening. So Richildo Marshall recalls her experience when she got angry due to tambaluslos smiling on top of a big rock near a river at around 6 or 7 in the evening. Houses, and his family became afraid of his horse-like sound. And during daytime, they found footprints that resemble a horse on the ground. It can be playful, especially to women, who can hypnotize them and ask them to do everything he wishes. Once they admire a woman, they do everything to get her by wooing her every day until he wins her heart. However, there are times that it can cause harm to people, especially when they got angry due to man's mischief. But many also believe that it can also be a good friend to people. Most of the Agta in Goa believe that although Tikbalang and Laki are almost the same, however, Laki's upper body is human and its lower body is that of a horse. On the other hand, the Tikbalang has an upper body that of a horse and the lower body that of a human. In Tigaon, most of the Agta believe that Laki and Tikbalang are the same in physical appearance, having an upper body, that of a horse, and a lower body, that of a human. Similarly, in Sangay, they also believe that Tikbalang and Laki are the same in physical appearance. They have an upper body of a horse and a lower body of a human. However, they believe that there is a creature also that has an upper body of a human and a lower body of a horse, and they call it as Onglo. The personal account of Eleanor Paladon tells her own experience with Tikbalang when her son was played by Lucky, resulting to his non-stop crying. Despite the belief of Agtang Isarog on these mystical or supernatural creatures, it was worthy to note that most of them do not consider aswang as one of the Tawong Lipod. If the Tawong Lipod are considered as persons not like us, The aswang, on the other hand, is considered as a person just like us. The Agtang Tabangnon believes that aswang are human beings endowed with evil powers. Most of the Agtang Tabangnon believe on the existence of aswang even in the contemporary times. Aswang has been described by Lynch in 1949 as a man or woman possessing preternatural powers of locomotion and metamorphosis and an inhuman appetite for the voided phlegm sputum of the deathly sick, as well as the flesh and blood of the newly dead. In the Agta community, there are certain individuals who are publicly known or tagged as aswang. These individuals are greatly feared and may on occasions be the target of physical violence. The stigma created to an accused aswang in the barrio to create a social boundary in the community. Many historians believe, however, that the aswang narrative has been used as a leveling mechanism among Agta communities to not be considered as a social outcast when one acquires more wealth. The fear of strangers or outsiders by Agta in their ethnic communities also promotes the aswang narrative that tries to avoid strangers in coming into their communities by labeling them as outsiders or aswang. Persera in 1983 observed that the aswang belief is not present in the Ilocano culture, despite the presence of strong women who are commonly labeled as aswang in other communities. His explanation on this was because Ilocos grow abundant of garlic, which is a known aswang repellent. So the types of Tawong Lipod in Partido culture can be categorized according to three categories. Um, one, gender; two, color; and three, attitude. Tawong Lipod's attitude is dependent on their color and gender. Females are commonly perceived as good, while males are bad. However, both genders can have the power to become good or bad. White represents purity and goodness, while black represents badness or evilness. These representations are similar to the ethnic studies conducted in the Philippines, putting discrimination on the skin color and gender. This belief can be historically traced back during the Spanish era when native Filipinos are called Indios because of their skin color. Females, on the other hand, can also be accorded to the goodness of Virgin Mary as the Holy Virgin who conceived Jesus through the Holy Spirit. However, despite their perceived goodness and beauty, just in the case of Magindara and Encantada, they can also inflict harm to humans. And this can be related as well to the biblical accounts when Eve caused Adam to eat the forbidden fruit, thus losing her sacredness as a unique and blessed creation of God. The Agtang Tabangnons' belief on the unseen and the power that surrounds it reinforces the consciousness of the self in order to be a moral being in both the physical and cosmic world. The personal narratives commonly centers on the need for mutual respect in the social space of both humans and Tawong Lipod. Most of the persons whose spirits were subjugated by the Encanto or Tawong Lipod tells the story of getting sick as a consequence for their misdeeds. The Tawong Lipod are always associated with human illnesses. Due to their invisible quality, humans are susceptible to commit transgressions over their mystical dominions. In order for a sick person to get cured, he has to believe in the power of nature and the spirits that surround it. They return to the nature to get healed through a shaman's help. He is a local faith healer or albulario who received consagra, which is who has the authority to heal ailing persons, and was being helped by a spirit. This can be done through spirit possession to communicate with the dead or fellow spirit. He may use a cross, rosary, and the image of Virgin Mary in his healing rituals. The fact that these traditions incorporate Christian symbols and traditions into their animistic healing rituals caused by Tawong Lipod enchantments speaks of the Agtang Tabangnons belief as characterized by syncretized spirituality. This proves that the exclusivity of ethnic belief has been proven otherwise. On the other hand, the non-Christian marking of these beliefs as purely superstitious thereby ignites further questions. The esoteric belief on the Tawong Lipod further emphasizes the Agtang Tabangnons' personal dilemma, choosing between fantasy over reality. The Encanto belief of palatial houses and glittering kitchen utensils made of gold depicts the subconscious aspirations and desire of the Agtang Tabangnon to improve their financial status and living conditions, and that can be achieved by forgetting the reality. When asked to choose, however, the Agtang Tabangnon chooses what is more important in life: love for family and life. The metaphor is clearly present. A desire for wealth is dangerous, and if one is seduced, salvation only comes by returning home. Intimate relations between human communities and their natural environment logically lead to the attribution of power to physical objects. Rachel Domatov in 1976 suggests that beliefs about environmental spirits causing illness when there is an intrusion into their territory actually function as a mechanism for environmental conservation. Such theories may be criticized as being based on ex post facto observation, but there is no doubt that simpler societies have a strong ecological sense, and that beliefs in environmental spirits reflect deeper social norms about reciprocity in human relationships with or dependency on the environment. Thus, ritual offerings to environmental spirits are part of the agricultural cycle, an expression of beliefs that one must return what is to be taken or has been taken from the land. Okay, that is according to Arends in 1956. Gibson in 1983 observes that among the Buhid Mangyan, a transformation of nature is a social process of exchange between human beings and owners of the forest of the environment. Fox also emphasizes this point in his field work among the Tagbanwa, observing that the natural environment is in fact ritually defined as territories of particular groups of spirits. Sudusta in 1983, studying a community in Surigao del Norte, distinguishes between two rituals: the ayo-ayo, which involves a proposal for a contract with environmental spirits before clearing the land, and the orasyon, where the spirits are actually ordered to live. So if these localized beliefs are characterized by hybridity or syncretized spirituality, what then is the relevance of these beliefs on the Agtang Tabangnons' ecological existence in contemporary times? The Agtang Tabangnons' belief on Tawong Lipod helps in positioning himself in the interconnectedness of the elements in the universe. It strengthens the idea of Walsh in 1990 that everything is alive, interconnected, and interdependent. They are constituted by the vital rhythms of the natural world, which are clear manifestations of a mysterious, all-pervasive power presence. This according to Grimm in 1983. Walsh also in 1990 said that each of these is a part of one vast web of life that holds all things together in harmony. For the Agtang Tabangnon, their worldview is greatly influenced by their everyday experiences that foster great respect for their universe. To mar the harmony present in their environment, as represented by the mystical beings, is to destroy balance where their power comes from. To avoid this, one has to respect their environment and put oneself in harmony with all forms of life, because through this, the Agtang Tabangnon can acquire more power to help others. In the contemporary world, this recognition on the importance of balance and harmony with all life forms has been facing a tremendous challenge. Because of the growing curiosity of man, his focus now is not only on how to help others, but this has evolved to self-centered materialist orientation that results mostly on environmental destruction over materialistic gains. This results to the breaking down of basic societal and environmental structures in the modern community. This can be because of the decreasing spirituality and lack of inner self-orientation on the life of a common person. Restoring the ecological balance is therefore imperative in this chaotic world. Just as Berry in 1978 proposes, the lack of life-sustaining capacities and institutions within a contemporary society is due in large part to the fact that people have no comprehensive myth or story to guide them in relating to the natural world. Because of modernization and influx of technological advancements, even the Agtang Tabangnons worldview has been greatly influenced by this phenomena. This lack of sustenance in a common, coherent myth may be a major reason for a fragmentation and alienation so prevalent in the modern society. Therefore, there is a need to follow what Berry suggests, that a new type of religious orientation is needed in order to unite and arise from a new story of the universe. This reinforces Berry's proposal that efforts should be made to maintain among Agtang Tabangnons deep awareness of the power presence within each reality of the universe. By maintaining awareness, it imposes a sense of power and control over its believers. Through their beliefs of Tawong Lipod, they are binded by the relationship between the physical and cosmic world. They are also cautioned not to abuse their environment and be sensible of the other life beings in their surroundings. It further maintains the need to nurture the ethnic culture of the Agtang Tabangnon. This means maintaining the awe and reverence due to the stars in the heavens, the sun and all heavenly bodies, to the seas and the continents, to all living forms of trees and flowers, to the myriad expressions of life in the sea, to the animals of the forest and the birds or the air. It's according to Berry in 1978. By rethinking the relationship of religion to cosmology in the modern times, it is significant that studies of localized traditions be given further attention. This can be done by integrating localized traditions in mainstream education, by developing reading materials for enhancing instruction to enliven Partido culture and basic education using the mother tongue. Okay, so that ends my presentation. Um, Ms. Mabalus po sa to all my listeners, to my participants online. I think I am now open for any questions, clarifications, comments from the panel, sir.
Okay, so thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ma'am Sheila, for that very informative lecture. So now let's go to our question and answer portion. So we will be reading some of your questions here in the chat box and in Facebook. So for our participants, so if you have questions, you can chat your questions in the chat box sections. And for those listening in Facebook, you can also chat your questions and we will read it for you. So okay, so do we have some questions? Na lang po muna magtatanong. Ma'am Sheila, yung question ko lang po is regarding the yung po sa duwende, yung sa pag-aalay, ano po usually yung mga inaalay kapag yung nakarawan? Yun.
Okay, ma'am. During our interview naman po, usually ang inaalay during the the ritual of the pag-aalay is commonly a chicken po, chicken. And sometimes you can also offer
Live
fruits.
chicken po.
It can be live or it can be, cooked chicken.
Okay po. So, how about po ma'am dun sa tiyanak? I just want to clarify po. Kapag, di ba kasi sa mga movies, usually, kapag sinabi nating tiyanak, they usually refer to unborn child or yung itsura niya is, yung features or yung attributes niya ay unborn child. Pero dun po sa lecture niyo is about, ang tiyanak is, usual feature niya ay bird. Yun. Bakit po may ganong pagkakaiba?
Actually, ma'am, we also have that kind of observation when we conducted the interview with the Agtang Tabangnons. So that's why we have the first illustration as a baby, okay, and then after the validation activity,
Yes.
they said that it's really not actually a baby. So we changed it according to their definition or to their description. So anyway, mythology naman kasi we cannot argue or we cannot impose our own conception of what should be the image of a certain thing or a certain, because that's their belief system naman. So
Yeah.
they have their, what's this? They have their first-hand experiences. They believe that it's like that. So our role as researcher is to just follow and document whatever they said.
So, is there a possibility po na different regions have their own characteristics of these beings?
Yes, oo. Most probably ganun talaga mangyayari because there are regions na iba-iba talaga yung conceptions, but dun sa Rumurugpan, I think, I mean sa Tambaluslos, yung may malaking penis, I think in TV Albay they have also that kind of, you know um Tawong Lipod. So but it's overly large lang talaga. It really covers the entire ano yan, yung penis niya talagang parang building na.
Yeah. Okay, so I think Sir Earl has a question po, ma'am. Sir Earl?
Okay, Earl.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you po for that very wonderful lecture. Um, anyway, I just first have a clarification and then a question, a follow-up question after that. So, also pala, thank you for introducing us to the world of the to the indigenous understanding of the Tawong Lipod. So anyway,
Okay.
first for those pictures, are there your uh, are there your drawings based on your fieldwork po, right?
Yes,
Yung
sir.
mga
Oo.
descriptions, yeah. Okay.
Yung descriptions, we gathered it from the informants, and then we asked an illustrator to draw according to the descriptions of the Agtang Tabangnon. So and then we presented to them first a first set of the illustrations during a validation activity, and then from there they tried to parang critique what is not or what is really a certain tabong lipod. So, yun, and that's why we have two sets of illustrations. So, some naman, actually, nagawa na maganda. Pero yung iba, uh, some would say that, um, is it actually yun nga, yung sa patianak or sa tiyanak, is it actually a baby but it's actually a gamgam or a bird.
Yeah.
So, yun.
So
So
um,
we choose it according to their ano yan, to their description.
I think that's nice. So if possible, we can do collaboration for its for an exhibit or to give it a space in the museum if you would like to, and with your people that you're working with. I think that would be an interesting exhibit to also extend your research works into a different venue, if possible. So ang question ko po related po doon is that um, yung description their description of the Tawong Lipod, um I mean ang imagination ko po kasi ng Tawong Lipod is that you can't see this Tawong Lipod, we can see this Tawong Lipod. So um if they can see it, the Tawong Lipod, who for example first described the initial descriptions, or these are, you know, where do these descriptions of the unseen beings of the Tawong Lipod, saan sila nanggaling po sa sa people? I mean, how does the people knew these descriptions po? If,
Actually, sir, it's really hard to document things which are products of imagination because one person would say like this, another person would change it, or the perception would be different from one person to another. So what we did is to conduct several activities. We first conduct focus group discussions with chieftains, and then ask them to describe, and then we ask another informants from our key informant interview, and then after which, to further saturate our data, we conducted community immersions. So from there, you can really parang you can really provide general picture of what is the common parang description of this different sets of people.
okay. Thank you, ma'am, for clarifying that.
Thank you po.
Okay, so thank you po. So, are there any questions po from our Zoom participants or in FB Live? Check lang po natin. Okay, so I think, Ma'am Vanessa, do you have some question? Ay, Sir Earl.
Vanessa chatted on Facebook that it would be a nice
Okay.
project for a kids storybook, something like that. That might be a very good project if you want to consider it for in the future. That
Yes po, I am. We are really open to making this a little bit further, like what you have suggested earlier, Sir Earl, that maybe these pictures can be contributed to the Partido Museo de Isarog, so that this can be appreciated by many viewers. So it can also contribute to our children. So maybe that's one suggestion made by Mom Vanessa is to include it as part of their literature. So as a tool, or as a tool in storytelling activities. And even we have another activity. We have a planned activity that is to consider conducting role playing. I think at theatrical play like that. But I think it's still being worked out by our cultural, I mean tactical performance club, members. So maybe this year, everything will be going to our common activities, and we will be going back to our work, and then we can patch things up these things that we haven't done yet in connection with our project.
So thank you, ma'am. So I think we have a question here in FB. So from Roland Catolico. So it seems po, ma'am, na 75% yung mga Agtang Tabangnon already have adapted or inherited the new or contemporary world of living, like, for example, clothing or houses. So, ma'am, what will be the implications of this if some of the indigenous group in the Philippines wanted to preserve their authentic culture for the next generation po? Yeah, that's the question po, ma'am.
It actually, Sir um, Sir Roland, I think the intangible part kasi of changing culture cannot be prevented. In my perspective, cannot be prevented. Like for example, the mode of dressing, ang hirap niya i-prevent because in the sense these people or this Agtang Tabangnon would rather go for comfort rather, I mean, instead of choosing the preservation of culture. Yung culture kasi is like um this is my present situation, and then we want to incorporate or still integrate what was before. So um what we can do, I think, in at present in the field of education is to include all these beliefs for us to still have an understanding of what they have before. But I think along the line of yung preserving even yung mode of dressing nila, and imposing to them to use bahag and instead of using shorts or even using shirts, I think it's it's not applicable, it's not ano um practical in the modern world.
So thank you po, Ma'am Sheila. So we still have some questions. So from Ma'am Janet Cledera. So we also learned that some of these stories or beliefs from Albulario, who happened to relate the sickness of our child then to one of these beings. So we followed what the Albulario recommended and our child was healed. Now, my children were asking, are they true? So do they really exist? So yeah. Ma'am Janet Cladera and her kids are watching po.
Okay. So the fact that your children, mom, were healed after consulting an albularyo, and then despite the fact that once, I mean, before you consulted the albularyo, maybe have that still reservations in you that what if my children will not be healed by this albularyo, but then afterwards nahil siya, maybe it's something that you have to consider na on my part, there are sickness that can be healed by albularyo, but there are also other sicknesses or illnesses that cannot be healed by albularyo, because albularyo of course will be yun nga, consulting nature as well, using nature to heal our bodies, our ailing bodies. So it's not actually the albularyo has the magical power to heal, but it's actually the nature itself. Yun ang belief ko.
So I think this is our last question. So do you have any advice or tips you want to share for those faculty or researchers who would want to delve into this research field of studying indigenous people and their stories? Thank you. So that's from Ma'am Vanessa Romero.
Okay. One advice I think is yes, you are not mistaken to choose indigenous people studies or cultural studies, because of course as a Filipino it would be your privilege on your part to contribute to the very limited literature that we have now. So But there are things that we have experienced during the conduct of the study, and that I think one thing is sabi nga, we learn from our experiences. So um, of course, you have to consider kasi when you conduct an IP study is yung time. Time is a very big element in conducting it. So do not just, in your proposal, do not write a duration of 1 year. Kasi hindi yun mo yun matatapos within a year. It's really really difficult because in the seeking for permission alone, it will take you a lot of patience. So because of the certain protocols that you need to follow. So and even after the conduct of the study, there are still certain protocols to follow. So yun nga, that just like what mom said yesterday, time, money, and dedication. Yun.
Okay, so thank you, ma'am. So I think that's it. So, in behalf of the organizing committee of the Balongibog series, we would like to thank Mom Sheila for giving us a wonderful lecture and to all the participants for this week's segment. So, for today's participant to receive your e-certificates, uh, wait. So, Sir Earl would like to say something po pala. Wait. Okay. Sir Earl?
Yeah. Before we close the this segment, this segment, I would like to initially promote the upcoming webinar series. Um, so by September, we're working with Dr. Stephen Acabado and Professor Daya of NCCU and other partner institutions. We are going to launch by September international webinar series on Indigenous peoples, heritage and landscape in the Asia Pacific, knowledge co-production and empowerment. So Dr. Raul Bredicina will also join the panel for uh, of the incoming webinar series. Also, I got a message from Dr. Hirona this morning. We're planning also to launch another segment on Magellan maybe by August or the following month. So that's thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, so thank you for that, Sir Earl. So for our participants for today, for if you want to receive your e-certificates, we will be providing a Google form in our chat box, so you can just click and evaluate. Thank you. So thank you again, and hope to see you soon for our next series of Balangibog Talks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, ma'am. Salamat po.
Thank you po.